All right, batting breakdown. You had a lot of fall shots from KL Rahul, right? I mean, the first over, he's been controlling his instincts for the first two tests and four innings that he played, but he didn't play a rash shot like that, especially in the first over. And Anderson tempted him big time, as well as Kohli. I mean, he's Anderson's best victim, I would say. He's gotten him more than 10 times now. Uh, and he's got an edge. He's got a mental edge over Kohli. And on the other hand, Pant, he's got a good technique, especially against the bowlers who come round the wicket. Uh, but when the ball's angled away from him, he does tend to go hard at it, play away from his body, and that's how he's got out in the first two tests as well, and that's how he got out today. Right. Pujara's breakdown. Oh, let's try to analyze Pujara's batting. Right, a lot of people are angry, confused, frustrated. I mean, Pujara, it's time. It's time we get the century. It's time we get the big 100. And Kohli is running dry. Right, I mean, he's got a great amount of adrenaline pumping through his veins every time a bowler gets a wicket. But he's running dry. He needs to get that big score. All right, let's try to analyze Pujara's batting technique. Right, uh, now, as an Indian, when you grow up, you're gonna play a lot on test. Sorry, you're gonna play a lot on mats, right? And on mats, the ball really swings, especially at the first maybe one or two overs. You play on dry grounds. There's no grass, so there's no the ball loses its shine really well. So the bowlers are always gonna bowl straight. Now, if you try to analyze Pujara's batting, he puts his bat straight up and then he just moves it sideways because that's how you play on mats. Remember, his dad used to bowl and bowl and bowl at him to build his batting technique, to build the grit and the determination in him, and he still carried that forward. It's hard to change the techniques, especially the things that you've learned as a kid. Right. So if you look at his batting technique, he's got his bat straight and he just moves it sideways. That makes him susceptible to the ball that's swinging, or especially the ball that's bouncing. Right. Now, what happened in this particular test? You've got sorry, you've got Anderson coming in, right? Anderson comes in, all he does is pitches it on good wing, and then if you see, Pujara hangs his bat away from his body. It's facing covers instead of facing square, and then he gets a thin neck, right? And that's and for Anderson on the first day, that's just like pav bhaji. It's just delicious. Like he's not gonna let that go away, right? And then one thing which Dinesh Karthik really pointed out in his analysis of Pujara's batting compared to the top order players across all the formats, especially in test, across all the countries, especially in tests, is he's lost the ability to score on full balls. Right? He's not finding the gaps. He's not trusting his drives. He's not trusting his punch. He, he's not trusting, especially the balls when he's trying to flick them on the leg side. His drives are not reaching the boundary. And when you get bad balls and you don't put them away, then you're gonna put the pressure on yourself, right? And that's a lot of people have been noticing that. But Dinesh Karthik actually pointed it out really well. And basically, because he's not scoring runs, he's never settled in, right? That's what happens in England. No matter, even if you've scored a century, a genuine ball can come out of nowhere, and you just make a small mistake and you're out, right? Obviously, KL Rahul's classic example in the second test when India played really well, he just doles it out at cover, the first or the second ball of the day. So basically, Pujara cannot cause any damage. I'm not too far. Like even if I have to bowl to Pujara, I would just act like a bowling machine, just run in and just bowl on good leg. That's it. He's not gonna do anything to you. He's not gonna harm you. And especially in the top three, if you're not scoring off of bad balls, you're not gonna make a lot of impact. All right, let's try to look at Virat Kohli. I mean, he's been champion for such a long time. There was a time when he was scoring double hundreds for fun. I think in 2017 or 2018, he scored like five double hundreds. There's a handful of people who have done that, right? Now, what is Virat Kohli trying to do, right? I mean, he's obviously got that aggressive attitude, even if he's fielding, even if he's batting, even when he's giving it back to the opposition. But aggression's not rude. He's trying to internalize that to get the best out of him. Right? That's what drives him. It's almost like you're trying to tell a lion not to growl or a tiger not to growl. Right? That growl, that roar that comes, that's what drives him. That's what enables him to get the best out of himself. Now, what is he trying to do? Right? He's obviously scored a lot of centuries, tests, ODIs, even in T20s. What Virat Kohli does is he memorizes his innings. He memorizes the feel of the ball on the bat. He memorizes how his legs are moving, right? And that's not happening in this particular, especially in tests. When you're playing away from India, you don't get a lot of scoring opportunities, and if you don't make the most of them, then you go into this spiral where no matter what you try, it's not going to work out, right? So if you look at his batting, he's going hard outside of stump. That's because he's trying to remember the feel of his cover drives. He's trying to remember the feel of his straight drives. He's trying to remember the feel of the punch. That feel is what he's trying to chase instead of trying to just play normal cricket and let the feel come to him. It's a very technical thing which batsmen do. I mean, obviously, Stephen Smith once famously before the start of the India Australia series last year said he's found his hands, right? And when you try to understand what does the batsman really mean, but it's just a level of comfort that they are experienced when they are scored big. That's what they are trying to get back to. And Virat Kohli is trying to chase that rather than letting it come back to him. I feel like if he gives himself time, if he tries to play proper cricket and not rush into things, especially when against Anderson, right? You want to win your mental battles against the best of the bowlers. And Anderson obviously got the best of him, right? So what happens when he's going hard outside of stump? In England, you have to make a slight adjustment. Instead of playing toward mid off or covers, you have to play towards square. There's a reason for that. When the ball swings, you want to give it the maximum amount of surface area of your bat. So if the ball's going away from you, and if your bat is facing the bowler, as the ball swings, the surface area of the bat is reduced to the ball, and that's what causes the edge, right? If you try to analyze Joe Root's bowling, he tries to give the maximum surface area. So in the initial 50 balls, Joe Root's gonna score square or towards third man, right? And that's where Joe Root gets a lot of runs, and that's a slight adjustment that Virat Kohli needs to do, especially when he's in the early 50 balls of his innings. Just try to play towards square instead of playing right down into the V region. I mean, the V region is famously said because in India the ball doesn't swing much. It seems maybe a little, but it doesn't swing a lot. So if you have to play in India, you have to offer a full surface, or you have to offer the full face of the bat because you want to reduce the probability of getting out bowled or LBW. Whereas in England, bowlers are not trying to get you bowled. Right? There's going to be a good amount of bounce, so especially it's going to hit the pads. It's going to go above the stumps, especially with Robinson. Right? English fast bowlers are famously 6 feet or above, so when they try to get you LBW, it's really hard for them because their natural height allows the ball to bounce higher than the stumps, and you don't need to do that in India. In India, you just ball straight, the ball's gonna stay on. So you offer a full place of the bat. Even in Australia, where the ball does not swing much, you can get away with it. You can stand on the back foot, punch it. But in England, you have to be very careful with the shots that you play, and you have to make sure that your shots are towards square and maybe the third man region or towards the slip region, gully region, especially in the early part of your innings. Once you start feeling comfortable, you can play in the V, you can maneuver the ball, and Rahul Dravid was a classic example of that. But Virat Kohli is not that kind of a guy. His favorite region is covers, right? It's blocked. Even if you analyze the Test Championship final, even the first two tests, the covers region is blocked, right? England doesn't mind him playing at mid off, right? And that's where he's offering the least surface area of his bat, and that's how he's gotten out to Anderson quite a few number of times. We'll try to analyze his particular wicket. and make an assessment of what's really missing in Virat Kohli's batting technique. And the other thing is, uh, which England and New Zealand have done really well, they're not bowling a lot of balls on the pads to him. They don't care if he hits boundaries straight. They just don't want to give him easy runs towards mid-on region or towards mid-wicket or square. You know, square leg. They want him to play straight. And when the ball's swinging, that's obviously not going to work really well. Right, let's try to analyze this. Right. Now, if you see this small technical thing, I would like to point with Anderson. As he's running in, if you see, he comes in close to the stumps. That small jump that he takes, it's just a small hook that he comes close to stumps. And as his right arm comes in to deliver, you can see it's almost like a push rather than. So he's not hitting the deck hard. He's almost like releasing the ball really slow, so then he can get that elevation, get that swing. Virat Kohli notices the ball being pitched up. If you look at his bat angle, it's straight. He's offered a least surface area to his bat, but just enough to, and that's what Anderson needs. He just wants that small nick, and Virat Kohli is susceptible to that in the early part of his innings. Obviously, Anderson's won that battle. All right.